Hello everybody, and welcome back to Robin's Taste. Today, I'm gonna talk about what movies I've seen this February. And it's a lot, so I'll probably divide this video into two parts. We'll begin with Color Out of Space. This is a movie directed by Richard Stanley, who made Hardware, one of my favorite movies of all time. I actually love that movie a lot. And he also made Dust Devil, which is a pretty interesting film. But Color Out of Space is an H.P. Lovecraft inspired or based film, but it's taking place in modern time. It's about a family who moves in the middle of the forest to a gigantic mansion. They'll live there for a while. All of a sudden there's a gigantic comet crash outside their residence, and some weird things are starting to happen around the farm. The only one who really understands this is the middle kids, kind of the teenager kids, who realize that the family starts to act weird, but they can't really put their finger on what it is. They can't really say that this is wrong, you know. But it feels like they're being contaminated with something, like they're acting strange. And the movie starts kind of slow, but interesting, and it kind of grows and grows and grows. And what I really like is that the director behind this movie, Richard Stanley, as usual being a very visual director, but sadly very slow in storytelling. In this movie, he's not as good on the visual parts, which is of course a downgrade, but the storytelling is way better. It's fast-paced, it happens a lot of things in this film, and especially towards the final act of a movie where you go like, what the hell is going on, you know? And it's really cool. It's kind of like Resident Evil 7, that kind of gameplay where things are going really bizarre. And yeah, I think definitely this was a good movie. I was hooked on it, you know. So yeah, totally a movie worth checking out. Then we have Black Scorpion, which is a movie from the 50s, and you can totally see that it's a film from the 50s. Because the story is about these gigantic black scorpions who lives in these underground tunnels underneath Mexico, and they're getting out to the surface and starts to attack people. You can totally see that it's a late 50s film because they force in this love relationship that doesn't work. It's horrible, and the main character is so boring, and there's a kid who's trying to help out and he's boring. Everybody sucks in this movie. The only thing that's really cool is the monsters, who looks pretty cool with their stop motion effects and stuff like that, and it really looks awesome. But I don't think it's really worth it because the characters are such stinkers and we're getting way too much presence and screen time and you don't really care about them. So it's sadly not a movie that has aged that well. It would be cool to see a movie today, but it'd probably still be worse than this. Yeah, I don't hate it or anything because the monster effects are cool. But it's definitely not a movie I'm going to see again, because it's just not entertaining enough. It's a 50s movie, you know? And that's sad. That's really sad. Then we go over to Hell Comes to Frogtown. This bad boy, let me tell you. It's a weird movie because it doesn't work for everybody. What we have is this guy who... This is very controversial. He has raped a woman and they have found out that the woman is pregnant. And this is a big deal because this is the future, which is post-apocalyptic and people can't get kids. So Sam Hell, the main character, is kind of a hero of the movie because he can impregnate women that no one else can do. And he's forced to travel to a place called Frogtown to save women who's kidnapped. And the beginning of the movie is kind of like awkward and kind of weird, you know, it's kind of edgy in the sense that you just feel like this is not suitable for work. But the middle part of the movie, or the end part of the film, becomes a very bizarre comedy. They obviously know that it's not supposed to be taken too seriously, and that's the part that I really enjoy. Because then he starts running around with 2 shotguns, pulling out one-liners out of his ass, and shooting guys, and one of the frogs is so overactive, you know, in his lines and quotes, that it becomes very comedic. So it's totally a movie that works if you're having this comedy sense, like you can feel like you can joke about it. But it's not a movie if you feel that this sounds too much, you know? So, for the right person, it's definitely a very funny film. For the wrong person, you'll hate it because of the contents of the film. And I can understand that, of obvious reasons. Me, however, I actually like this film. It's totally down my lane, with a bizarre kind of humor going on. Creepazoids. Oh boy, let me tell you about Creepazoids. Creepazoids is a movie that I saw with two friends, and we've been hyping this movie so much, like we really wanted to see this film. Eventually we got around to do so, and let me tell you, we laughed. We were drinking beers, we were having a good time, but boy, we laughed, because we've been hyping this horrible movie that's so bad. The acting comes straight from Resident Evil, the video game. It's a Jill Sandwich type of dialogue going on here. It's unintentionally hilarious in the way that it's just not the way it's supposed to be or expected it to be. And the monster looks unfinished, like it has two gigantic paws and one gigantic tail and a huge head, but it doesn't look like it actually can walk straight. It looks like it wobbles all the time. And it walks really slowly. And somehow it's supposed to fit in this ventilation duct. I'm not sure how it fits, but it lives in there, in this gooey room. And as far as I'm concerned, that was never explained. Yet again, we wasn't paying attention to the story, so I don't know. Nothing is explained in this movie, it just sort of pops up, and there's a monster, you know. In the end of the film, there's this baby who pops up that very easily gets knocked down to the floor. It's kind of like the head is too big and it's crawling over the floor and it's supposed to bite a character, but then it falls over because the head is too big. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And then we have these gigantic possum rats that looks plastic as hell. They're so unrealistic. And it comes out of the blue and they're almost causing more damage than the main monster in the movie does. And we were laughing so hard at this, like, Jesus Christ. My stomach was hurting out of all the muscles I probably gained from just laughing so hard. It's only 1 hour long, which is actually very interesting and very good in the favor of a film, because otherwise you get tired of it. But this was not what we expected. We expected some good monster movie. This was horrible, but also very entertaining. Rawhead Rex. My god, we gotta talk about Rawhead Rex, because this film is good. This film is goddamn good. Way better than anticipated. I've seen it once before, and it wasn't good back then. But now I saw it on VHS, and the quality was kind of corny. And I realized that this movie takes itself so seriously. They build up this monster like a gigantic threat. And for us as an audience, the monster doesn't look that scary. It looks pretty clunky and weird, like a mess. But it's also interesting in its design. It can't take your eyes from it, you know? And the fact that this movie is so serious, there's almost no nudity. There's just guys trying to make sense what the hell's going on and trying to defeat this monster is practically unkillable. And it's such a serious tone. It's kind of like Candyman. As a matter of fact, it's based on a book by Clive Barker as well. And it's very faithful. And we were sitting there like, me and my friends, also the same guys who saw Creepazoids, we were sitting there like, my god, this is really serious, dude. And I think this is actually the best movie we saw that day, or through the whole weekend, when we packed a lot of movies and saw them. And yeah, it was really interesting. So totally check it out. It's way better than I anticipated it to be, if you look past the fact that the monster doesn't look that convincing. Cheers to that. Beyond Evil. It was released by Troma, and, or at least they released it after it was produced, I believe. God knows why. It's a haunted house movie where a couple moves into a new house. And 30 minutes into the movie, there's one big scare where John Saxon trips on something that looks like ghost poop or something and falls down a flight of stairs. He gets up and he's like, oh, I'm okay. That's the first scare, within 30 minutes of the movie. Then 50 minutes into the film, he punches a doctor in the gut, out of nowhere. That was actually pretty funny, but I'm already bored with the film, and I just don't really care about it. Truth to be told, nothing really happens in the movie. The audio is god-awful. There's one scene when they get off at the station, the airplane, you know, and there's so much traffic noise and shit, you can't hear anything what they're saying. It's like, all you can hear is honk honk, like, Jesus Christ, man. And John Saxon, God bless him, but he can't do anything with this movie. Hell, not even Michael Ironside could do anything with this movie. So no, it's really bad. Beyond Evil was horrible. I think I saw like 1 hour through and then I just turned it off. It's free on YouTube, on Troma's page, so you can check that out if you want to. God knows why you want to see that movie, but nevertheless, it exists. Without a doubt, the most boring movie I've seen in this update. And yeah, boring movies tend to be the worst films, in my opinion. Kong, Skull Island. I've seen it before on the big screen, on cinema, and I actually liked it back then. It's visually awesome, and yeah, it was cool. Now I saw it on Blu-ray, and I thought to myself, why did I like this movie in the first place? It takes too long to introduce the characters, and there's too many characters to care about, because most of them are gonna get killed off, so you don't care about them anyways. And once we get to the island, it's very beautiful, very well shot, we have cool monsters, but I'm already getting tired of it because they wasted so much time introducing the characters. And you have some really cool encounters, especially the first encounter with Kong, which is really awesome. You get to see him pop his head up in front of a helicopter. It's really cool. And then we have some cool monster encounters, and as I told you, the setting of the film is great, but everything that happens in the movie is kind of on repeat. We get some more monsters, some people get killed, we get some more monsters, some people get killed. You get the point. And it gets tiresome. I don't hate it by any means, I just think that it wasn't as good as the first time I saw it. And in the end of the day, besides the positive, beautiful setting, I really don't see what they wanted to do with this film. Except from actually doing a good Kong presentation. I think that King Kong was very well performed in this film. Then we have this bad boy, Raiders, the story of the greatest fan movie of all time. So what this is that Raiders of the Lost Ark was running on the big screen back in the 80s. A couple of 11-year-olds saw this movie and they decided that they're gonna make a shot-for-shot remake out of that film. This is the documentary about how the kids made that movie. Yes, that film is real, and the guys finished it when they were around their late 30s or something, with a big airplane fight, you know. And I really want to see the final product, because this is such an interesting and given documentary. How could these kids come up with this idea and pull it through, for that matter? Like, through this years and years and years in progress, they're still doing their childhood dream of performing this film. After seeing it once on the big screen, they're hooked on doing this. I'm mind blown. This is great. It exists on Netflix in the USA, but we don't have it here in Sweden, so that's a sucker. But never mind, it's very worth to check out, so do check it out. Give yourself the time to check it out, because this is unbelievable. Then we have a movie on Netflix that runs down here. I'm not sure how it is in the States, but it's called Tau. T-A-W. It's called Tau, and we have Micah Monroe, who is stuck in this apartment, or this gigantic house. She was kidnapped by a professor who has invented an AI controlling the entire house. The AI is very intelligent, and he needs her to become the subject of this AI robot. If she doesn't comply, he's gonna kill her. Oh boy. And this is actually a really cool AI, kind of artificial intelligence thriller with some really heavy science fiction stuff to it. It's better, according to me, than Ex Machina because it's more of a threat going on, and she's trying to escape and confuse the robot and stuff like that. and I really like that. This movie was way better than anticipated, and I had a really good time seeing it. And as I said, more entertaining than Ex Machina. And I think Ex Machina is actually pretty overrated. There, I said it. Moving on with Mortal Kombat 1. What can I say about the first Mortal Kombat movie? Well, it drives the story of a video games very well put together. It's easy to follow, you get the character relationships and stuff like that, and friendships and all that. And it's not a messy movie, it's actually very well performed in that manner. So you can really see that the director and the makers of this film have a great respect for the game. The action scenes variate. There's some very cool action scenes that has a lot of cool moves and stuff like that, inspired by the game, and some original moves of course, and some action scenes, especially the first encounter with Scorpion, where Johnny Cage is kind of just running through a forest and Scorpion shoots his thing out of a hand. That scene it comes out of the blue, and it's like, how did this happen, you know? And then there's a cooler fight when we jump against each other. We're stuck in a fire dimension and we're fighting it off, we're duking it off, which is probably one of the best scenes in a Thai film. And the production value of the movie is really cool, with interesting settings, and according to me, really cool characters. I do actually like Johnny Cage. I'm one of the few people who actually do. A lot of people think it was a pain in the ass. I loved him. And I think that this movie really pulls that through. So it's not perfect by any means. Actually, it's a bit sloppy and it feels like it's kind of edited. Like it feels like they cut a lot of material out of the film just to tell the story and not to really give that extra thing. Usually when it comes to video game based movies, it's hard to do that extra thing that is the cherry on top. It's very hard to do that. I like the Tomb Raider movie, for example, but I still think that movie doesn't have that extra thing because it's so hard to squeeze it into the film. But yeah, it was still a good attempt, and yeah, let's see how the sequel is. Oh boy. I've seen Mortal Kombat Annihilation a couple of times, and I can tell you this time at least I didn't think it was as bad as it was the first times I've seen it, because this time I can see where the story is going, and I can see that, okay, this is the format we're going with. It's not a good format, it's pretty fucking horrible, but I can see what story we're talking about. They have 7 days to save Earth from this evil dude. Okay, I get that part. But why so many characters? They cream in so many characters that it's ridiculous. They have this guy called Nightwolf, who I remember from the games, but in this movie he just pops up in one scene, gone in the next, replaced with a woman who just says, oh, he took off. Okay, so what was his point? Oh, he's gone, don't bother about him. But the guy's trying to help, yeah, let's just move on with the story, you know? And she's obviously a traitor to all these characters. You can totally see it in her eyes, like she's squinting all the time, like, I'm evil, you know? And when she's turning out to be evil, it's like, oh, big surprise, big whoop whoop, you know? It's not much I can say about Annihilation. Everybody knows how much it sucks. But I was more entertained than I thought it was going to be the first time I saw it, and it was a slightly bit better, but that doesn't give it a good rating. And the last movie, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. This is a war drama about 600 people who's in a prison, impersonated by the Japanese during World War II. And Mr. Lawrence is this guy who's a kind of commander guy who's communicating with the Japanese and communicating with the prisoners. And it's kind of a big freedom in this camp because the prisoners can kind of go and walk as they want and work as they want and stuff like that. At least it gives that impression. But through all that you still understand that they are still prisoners and the Japanese people can execute them at their own free will. And that the Japanese people sort of want them to commit harakiri because it's sort of an honorable thing. And in walks David Bowie's character, who's a new prisoner who kind of becomes this revolted dude, like he wants people to go against the Japanese people. And the Japanese people kind of like him because they think that, okay, at least this guy is showing some balls compared to the other guys. The soundtrack is great. The acting is tremendous. There's so much chemistry going on between the characters, and I really genuinely care for every character in this movie. Even the douchebag general who's sort of going against the Japanese, and he refuses to talk to them, but you can see where he's coming from, because he hates to be there. And it's an interesting and kind of psychological point of view, and David Bowie gives this amazing performance. There is one in a prison cell in the beginning of the movie where he's kind of just losing his mind, pretending that he's home, shaving his beard or eating food. It's just perfectly mimicked, and you can see what he means by that. And then there's one scene where he's talking about his baby brother and the past that he had, and it's like the cherry on top that I'm talking about. It's like that thing that gives the movie three-dimensional emotion. It's just a brilliant movie, way better than I remember it to be. And it works perfect when coming home after you're hard at work and you just want to chill in front of a film and just watch something and have an emotional response at something. So yeah, that's it. February was all in all splendid, really powerful and really strong, and I hope that Mars will deliver us good titles. This has been a lot of information for you guys. Take care, everybody.